Alright guys, before today's episode, just a quick reminder that we are on Patreon. For as little as £3 a month, you can sign up and get access to an extra episode every 2 weeks, plus bonus content from all our previous live shows, first dibs on tickets for upcoming live events, and also you can buy the live shows individually if you just like to see one of them. If you don't want to sign up to a monthly thing, that's understandable. If you want to just see maybe behind the scenes from the Fringe, behind the scenes from the Pavilion Theatre that we've done, or just any of the live shows themselves, they are all available to buy individually. But of course, for cheaper, you can sign up for a monthly thing and get all access to the extra episodes as well. Before we start as well, just a reminder that myself and Stu are going to be on tour later this year. Tickets are available in the description, so hopefully see you at those live shows. But aside from all that, guys, enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Some Laugh podcast.
It could be like, oh, that was some laugh, or there was just some laughs.
Some laughs.
Well, no promising all laugh.
No, there's going to be some.
It's some laugh.
You've got a Halloween bit, don't you?
I do.
Have you?
It's spectacular.
It's kind of tied up in a different bit, though.
You're explaining it to somebody who'd never heard it before,
Yeah,
kind of
so
thing.
my mum took in a refugee from Vietnam, and we had to explain the concept of Halloween to him. And
That's fucking great.
It's about
Yeah.
that.
That's a great setup for any. You could do that with anything.
Yeah. You would have thought I would have written more jokes for that full hour, like explaining every single thing.
But then you become that's sort of like there's like Seinfeld bits that are like that where he
If
doesn't
an
say he's
alien
explaining
was
them.
to
He's just
come
it's
down,
kind of just like
Yeah.
imagine explaining that to an outsider. This crazy thing we do. Sean McLaughlin has a great bit about when you have to explain a newspaper in the future.
Yes,
What a newspaper
that's right,
was,
yeah.
and it's so good. But then you're like, I guess those bits, they're so fun to write. But then you couldn't have more than one in an hour because everyone would be like, yeah, okay, yeah, everything's
You're
mad,
explaining
everything is crazy. I guess, yeah.
The world is a fucked up place.
Yeah. What a great closing line. I guess the world isn't. That's when I realised the world's a pretty fucked up place. Good night.
That's the title of the show as well.
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, there's a running joke with us that whenever me and Stu used to meet up to write, my premise would always be the world's a fucked up place.
Great.
And then the bit was always a bit like, shredded wheat or whatever. Just need a way into this shredded wheat.
Yeah, and it's always as a
That's
fucked up
like
place.
Chris Rock repeating the premise over and over again. Saying the world's a pretty fucked up place. The world is a fucked up place. You see the shredded wheat? I'd watch that. I mean, that's a great act. I've not seen anyone do that act just where it just doesn't match at all.
Yeah.
Your passion versus your statement versus... Because I always think that like a good way to write comedy is that your stories should be examples of your points, right? So if you've got like a good point to make, then all the stories that could just be a funny story, it's kind of has a bit more levity if it's an example of a point. But if your point is just the world is fucked up and your stories are cereals crazy, it's even more funny.
The far too general a premise, and then like the specific is like so. Like,
I thought that was funny tip, but the audience did not.
They didn't like it.
None of the audience.
The thing is, they don't want to be reminded of how fucked up the world is.
That's true.
They're not ready to hear that
That's
shredded
what I
wheat.
was telling myself.
there's another time you did you do that this like without planning it, because we done a solo show years ago and we were starting out, and Steve just kept going, looking good, feeling good.
Yeah, I'd lost a bit of weight. I'd lost 2 stone, and I couldn't remember my next joke, so I just kept going. I'm looking.
I love
good,
those
feeling
filler
good.
lines that you put in between. Looking good, feeling good. Well, you just say that in between bits while you're thinking.
Yeah, well, I was
looking good,
trying
feeling
to
good.
think of the next bit, so I was like, but
That's
I'm
a
looking
great
good,
one.
I'm
I
looking
just
good.
go, I don't know, man. That's what I always say.
Yeah, I
between
do that
stuff.
as well.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's like,
rub your head and look down. Look like you're really thinking.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, but then the stuff is not like pontificating at all. The stuff is just, my mum's a bitch. I don't know, man. I guess I hate. And then I'm just going into something, and it's like, no, because you're being really slow and quiet.
Yeah.
You can't now get it fully into rage straight away. But looking good, feeling good is fucking great.
But I think it just, confidence is key, innit? So if you're
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Confidence is key.
Steve
Confidence
doesn't
is
do
key.
stand-up, he does self-help seminars.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shift into that market.
We'll see your book in W.H. Smith or whatever, the world's a fucked up place, like all those fucking Mark Manson ones that have got like the wee swear words in them.
That's the dream.
Apparently, that adds extra 0 to the end of your book sales if you put the word fuck in the title.
Really?
That's what I was told by a publisher.
Wow.
Yeah. So please buy my book in 6 months. Fuck you, you fucking fucks. It's gonna sell 10 million copies. Is what I'm saying. No, that's what I was told. Is like that's why. Also, what I love is the 2 books came out the same year called "The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck" and "How to Not Give a Fuck." I bet they were both pretty fucked off about that.
Yeah, you'd be.
Their whole mantra is, I don't care about anything. The second they saw, what? I'm releasing that book. That's my book. I bet they were absolutely livid.
They need to read the other person's book to find out how not to give a fuck.
Yeah,
about
yeah. About them
existence of
stealing
that
their
book.
book. Yeah.
But well, thanks for joining us,
Yeah,
Rhys.
thank you.
An honour.
That's all
Privileged,
time
looking
for.
good, feeling good, sounding good. If you don't mind my saying.
Sounding great.
me and Steve have been to see a lot of your Fringe shows when you were doing them. I know you're.
Yeah, I've seen your Fringe shows
you
too.
graduated.
Stu doesn't give a fuck about
We didn't go together.
And used.
I was like, that'd be funny to just have Stu like, I've never seen you.
Never heard of this.
Yeah. Don't care.
But I think we've probably seen you first on Twitter, which you were very prolific at one point before it was
The glory days.
before it was the way it was now. I always wondered, like, would you just spend your days just like thinking of stuff to tweet? Would that be kind of like how you taught yourself to write jokes, or because I felt like you were so prolific at the time? I was like, God, like maybe you're just sitting and doing a good few hours a day on this kind of thing. Is that what was?
Well,
happening?
if you look back on those tweets that we all thought were great, they're fucking rubbish. They're not good jokes. It's not good comedy.
Right.
It's just that it just worked for what Twitter was at the time. It definitely. Me and another comedian, Adam Hess, lived together, and he was very prolific as well on Twitter. And his more much funnier than mine. Mine it strayed into puns too often of what I was doing. I tried not to, but that's what Twitter sort of lends itself to, and I kind of fucking hate puns.
Yeah.
So I look back, some of them are good, and some of them you're like, oh god. Whereas Adam's were always just really funny, silly premises. But I think it was like, it definitely made us better at, we've talked about this in the past, it made us better at like going, oh shit, I've got an idea and that is now too long, so I have to find a way to make that shorter. So in terms of joke writing, word economy, it improved that. And it was that way round, I think, rather than, I'm great at word economy, so Twitter's the platform for me. Twitter was the only platform.
Yeah.
Unless you were a YouTuber, which was like, now is like the best business model in town, and then was the most frowned upon, embarrassing thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, it was like Zoella and what was the
Exactly,
guy?
you'd have to vlog, and it was just like, oh my, fuck all of that.
Yeah.
But Twitter was kind of the place you could, for comedy writers, basically. I think loads of people got loads of non-comedy people became comedy writers because of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't just sit around. It was more just like, now if you have an idea for a premise, you put it in your notes on your phone. I was just putting everything. We'll just go on Twitter. And sometimes it would be like, oh, I'll find a way to make that a one-liner rather than a premise or whatever. And then what I learned was, because I was so new, I would then go on stage and try and do those jokes. And you go, oh no, these are all just premises. None of these really are punchlines. Every now and then you'd get one that was a punchline.
Yeah.
Mostly a good one, you'd be like, you'd say it as if that's the whole joke because it got 500 retweets or whatever. And the audience would go, yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. And then you'd be like, oh, I don't have it. And then you come off and think, oh, that died. So that's not funny. That's only funny on the internet. It took me ages to work out. No. You haven't said any punchlines yet. You've just presented an idea. And so, because I used to write by like going, I just kind of go through every time it came to writing a new Edinburgh show, I'd just start that process by going through like the last year of tweets and just copying any that I liked into a document. And then I just go like, oh, these 10 are on the same subject. So just put them in an order and that's a bit. And then you go into working process and go, no, it isn't.
But did you ever feel that the audience had already maybe seen it on Twitter and then they were like...
I didn't entertain that idea for even a second.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know though, because I think now there's more access to stuff like TikToks or whatever, or clips, and I think audiences don't care. They haven't seen it. There's so much that they haven't really taken anything in. Even if they've laughed at it on their phone for a second, if they come and a super fan might be disappointed.
Yeah.
But even then, they're the ones who want to see it again.
But I don't know if it's just I'm in my own head about it, but if I've done a bit online and I've done it on stage and it doesn't get as much of a laugh as it used to, I always think that's because I've seen it. But maybe I'm just worried.
No,
about
I think
that
actually
and
maybe
I'm
you're
not
right.
delivering it
Maybe you're
the
right.
way I would've.
Weirdly, I don't think that would have been the case with tweets that much, because it's not the same to read a tweet in your own voice in your head and then see the comedian do it. And you would do it a bit differently and stuff. With like a famous bit, if you have a bit that's like a viral bit or something, and then you go and do it, I guess I would think that as well.
Yeah.
Where I'd be like,
But maybe it's just you going, you're not delivering it as well because you're worried
because you
about
think,
that.
oh, this is old. They know.
Yeah.
They can see through me.
Yeah.
Confidence
There's
is key, man.
Exactly.
Well, there's no real way of knowing, but the fact that in your head you're questioning it is enough for it to affect how it goes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes if you're just having any doubt about it in your head, you're like, I'm fucked here.
Yeah. The audience can sniff it out.
But it's this. How annoying is it that like if you're doing a gig that isn't a new material gig and then you stray into like brand new material, sometimes you're like, oh, they can tell. And so it dips because obviously the quality is not going to be as good, but also you are a bit more nervous or whatever. If you're doing a new material gig and you do old, that also dies.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, we're not here for that. You're too confident.
Yeah.
We don't want to see that. We want to see floundering. It fucks me off so much.
I always feel it's like playing your strongest starting 11 in like the League Cup.
Yeah,
You're like,
it's embarrassing.
I should have played the under 19s. Or whatever,
yeah. Everyone's slagging you off. Yeah,
Then if you play all your new jokes at a big gig, it's like you get fined by the FA.
You're trying to throw
You're
the gig.
fucking around it.
You mentioned Adam. Like I remember like you talking quite a lot in those old shows about like pranks and all that. Did you used to do a lot of pranks, or was that like just bits?
I think it was just bits. I don't think there was a lot of pranks, to be honest. The guy. I have to look. The guy was gross. Okay, he wasn't. He was great, but there was when we first lived together, he would cook spaghetti bolognese at 8 a.m. every day, and on more than one occasion, he was chopping so many onions. I woke up with tears in my eyes. I genuinely woke up crying from onions he was cooking in another room, and I was like, "This is absolutely unacceptable." He's a vegetarian now, so he doesn't do that. He cooks a sort of a different vegetarian slop every morning, I presume. But he would just cook it and then leave it on the hob all day, and then just like, you know how most people have a meal and they will like plate up something and then sit down and have a meal. He would just like be on his laptop thinking of jokes or whatever, and every now and then just walk up one spoonful in the mouth, sit back down, just like throughout the day. So it would just be there all day.
Microdose in bolognese.
He would just, yeah. Lighter under the spoon. But I don't think there was many pranks. He had loads of stuff about pranks and stuff like that. And how he had this bit about hiding under my bed or whatever, and then me wanking or something, and then him jumping out. Or him having to pretend to be dead or something, I can't remember. But it was really funny, but it didn't happen. None of it happened.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, yes, it did. Sorry. This is why people go like, and did you pre-prepare for Mock the Week, or is it all improvised? What do you want me to say?
Pre-prepare?
Yeah, sorry, guys. Not all of it. I'm always like, well, it's about 50-50. Or is it?
That'd be a funny bit, like a Tim Robinson sketch where like one comedian hasn't heard that it's all heavy. And you're just like, oh, you're like, fuck, these people have got notes.
How are they doing?
Isn't not someone done that? Did they not on like a panel show once? They just didn't realise that it was you were meant to prepare, and they just turned up.
Well, I went on A League of Their Own in the pandemic, and one of the writers on the show was sent to my dressing room to just like check. You got some good stuff? You want any of this stuff? I've got some notes or whatever. And that person told me, by the way, this is like a stag do. Everyone just has a go at each other. It's not like Mock the Week. Everyone's just bantering and they're slagging each other off, and no one brings notes on. It's not that kind of show. So then I go on and I don't have any notes, and I'm in aggressive mode. And then Rob Beckett and Freddie Flintoff walk on with thicker books,
like Dickens,
with novels they've written about prepared for the show. Fuck. And then I'm like, fuck, I wrote all these jokes and I don't have any, and I'm trying to remember them. And then also the first thing that said to me is like Jamie Redknapp's hosting for the first time, and then he says something to me like, Rhys, it's my first show. I'm nervous. It's your first time on the show. Are you nervous? He was like, it's my first time hosting or whatever. And I was like, right, stag do. So I went, no, I'm not nervous, but I can see why you are, because hosting's mostly reading. Right? And I was like, top of the head, I was like, not bad.
That's very good.
Now, it's not my gag. They always joke about how he can't read or whatever, but I was like, that, I'm stag do. And then he's just like, oh. And no one laughs. And he's like, seems quite hurt. And I was like, oh, fuck. Was I not supposed to? 10 minutes later, they're doing a bit where it's like, what would Jamie's autobiography be called? And everyone's reading their fucking notes and saying all these gags they've written about what his autobiography would be called. I didn't even know this was coming up. But everyone's got like 10 great titles for his. And then I haven't said anything. And then he just goes, yeah, obviously someone in his ear goes, get Rhys involved. And then he goes, oh yeah, brilliant. Everyone's digging me out. Rhys, you got anything to contribute here? You want to slag me off or whatever? And I'm like, nah, it didn't really land the last time I had a go at you, so I'm going to leave it. And that was my biggest laugh of the show by miles. Obviously doesn't go, they can't use that.
Then they've got to keep the other shit.
They've got to keep the other shit where I haven't got him. So then it's just like, so what happens, I think, in the edit is he goes, Rhys, I'm nervous. Are you nervous? And I go, no. Like, great,
Looking
well, thanks
good,
for
feeling
coming.
good.
Yeah. Look good, feel good, man. Horrible, absolutely horrible. Also, there was no audience in there, but there was like 40 people on the crew because it was COVID. We were doing it without an audience. There wasn't even a Zoom audience. I think they were claiming there was a Zoom audience, but there wasn't. In the edit, there's a Zoom audience who were laughing at Rob Beckett's jokes, but certainly not mine. No, ha ha ha. There's 40 people, but these 40 people have no incentive to laugh at me, but they do have a massive incentive to laugh at their boss, Jamie Redknapp. So everything he says, they're like, ah! And I was saying jokes that they were just like, they're just sort of like doing. You look up and they're all just like doing some work.
Oh man.
And you're like, oh,
Well, not only that, but you went for the boss straight away.
yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
First
And it
day in
didn't
prison
land,
rules,
and so it
yeah.
was like, yeah, exactly.
Do you not think, on a way,
Big
like
mistake.
nowadays, like TV producers, if they had in mind like a viral, let's see an awkward moment like that,
Right.
keeping it in would go viral if somebody clipped
And
that
thank
up.
God. They didn't. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, because authenticity is what's playing now, isn't it?
Aye.
People don't like all this other shit, and so that would have been
Yeah.
Maybe that would have changed everything for me.
But you know how like those moments like with that American one that Carragher and Mika Richards and Henri do?
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
you know, when Carragher made that joke and it was everybody's like, what the fuck? Like, it's the
Yeah.
stuff like that is going to be the things that really go viral now. So
And then
I
he
think,
had to do a big apology, didn't he? Or
yeah.
the host did some big speech about it the next week or something like that.
What was the joke?
It was a bit now because like everyone says Henri fancies that. Is it Alex Scott? No, it's what'd you call her?
I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
Kate. Something.
Kate Abdo,
Right.
and she's
Yeah.
got married to that guy now. But everyone says Henri fancies her, and then like Carragher said something like about her being unfaithful. He made like some mad joke, and then like Mika
He
Richards was
implied
like,
that they were having an affair.
yeah.
When Mika Richards isn't laughing, you know.
Well, he was on the episode of A League of Their Own with me, and trust me, it doesn't feel good. That was tough.
Do you think it's mad like when you do stuff with footballers because you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like,
Yeah. I've not done much, but like, yeah, you're just like, oh God. And then they're sort of like smashing it much harder than because audiences are like, wow, a footballer saying something funny. Whereas if you're like introduced as a comedian, they're like, well, everything this person says will be genius and hilarious.
Yeah.
And so you're up against it. On those shows, you're up against it. I get why they have to have footballers on them, but I'm sort of like, it makes it so much harder as a comedian, I think.
Have you
Maybe that's
worked,
just my
worked
style.
with the other Rhys James?
No, I've tried to a lot.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
No, he doesn't know about me. He's he's very
matter how
reluctant
much.
to acknowledge. But I've tried to. I've pitched so much stuff involving me and him, and it never gets anywhere really. Yeah, I wrote.
Rhys James is a stage name, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rhys Jones is my name. What a fucking what a mistake.
Was that because of Griff Rhys Jones?
No, it was because there was a actor on Equity and Spotlight, I think, when I was we're 2 years in. I just got an agent, and then my agent was like, you can't join Spotlight if there's someone with the same name as you. And so we need you to be on Spotlight because of all the acting work we'll get you. Have you ever seen me acting? And there's a Rhys James already on there. Now, Rhys James was like some 18-year-old, and so was I, but he was like some fresh out of drama school kid who also has never acted in anything. So what a waste of everyone's time. And then I changed my name, and then it's my name for 5 years or so, and then it's like the worst possible. Thankfully, he's constantly injured.
Yeah.
But when he first came on the scene, it was like, this is the solution to England's right-back problems for the next 20 years. It's like, fuck, a comedian started called David Beckham in 91. I just got no chance. I did just think, I'm just going to change it again. But then how many times can you?
I've got a Stephen Buchanan who is a paedophile, so it could be worse.
Yeah,
This
fair
is
enough.
the answers to America's pedo problems.
For the next 20 years, this is America's top paedophile. Luckily, he's injured all the time. Every comedian knows exactly what everyone else with their name is up to, don't they?
Yeah.
There's a farmer called Rhys James who I was worried about for a while because he was winning all these farming awards. And I thought, award winner Rhys James, this is a nightmare. But paedophile's probably worse. Although
It was caught on To Catch a Predator. You ever seen that?
He's got
Yeah.
credits, this guy.
yeah,
He's good credits.
this is a telly paedophile. He's a TV
More
paedophile.
TV
That's
appearances.
hard to do.
yeah,
Thank God he's not in Spotlight. But
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's difficult when you type in my name. It's like Predator ? And I'm like, no, well, come on, we want comedian to go above that. Hopefully.
Okay, so you need to sort of start gaming the algorithm slightly,
Yeah, I'd have done that. I'm now above them, thankfully.
or you just need to write a routine about predators.
Yeah.
So that when it
With
comes
the-
up, it'll come up with your bit.
Yeah,
when you
like,
search Predator.
The film.
your
I
bits
could,
about
I could
sharks.
do a
Yeah,
bit
a
about
bit
the
about the film Predator.
Yeah.
A very timely bit about the film Predator. To be fair, I've got a bit about the 2009 Britain's Got Talent dance troupe Flawless. So I don't know how dare I slag off doing a bit about Predator.
It was iconic. It was an iconic time, wasn't it? Them and
Diversity.
Yeah, exactly. It was
I don't
just the
remember the other
rivalry.
one, the one you're
Flawless.
talking about. What were they like?
So the reason I have the bit is because their main thing that I remembered about them is that they went on and then Simon Cowell says, what's the ambition to them? And the guy goes, chase the dream, not the competition. And then they come 9th and losing to someone doing the exact same thing as them. And I always just found it so funny. Like, I'm sort of obsessed with those platitude phrases and how people sort of govern their lives with this nonsense bullshit. And that's just such an example of it immediately being wrong. You're just like, no, look at the competition because their one's better. Diversity have done the exact same thing, but they put a little buzzer on his head and everyone thought it was brilliant. And you just did a good... They were like better dancers,
Right.
but it didn't matter.
Yeah. It was like the Will Young Gareth Gates.
Yeah,
thing,
right.
where Gareth Gates. I was more of a Gareth Gates guy.
Me too.
To be fair.
Yeah?
He had cooler hair.
Cooler hair and underdog as well with the stutter.
Yeah.
Good story.
You gotta love
It
that.
would play now. The stutter would play now.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then,
Back
it was
then.
just a bit too early for all of us. We weren't yet ready for that sort of...
There's still Channel 5
sort of-
shows
yeah.
about that
He's
kind of
opened
thing,
the
like
way.
slagging him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, a point of difference, you know, back then. That's why, I mean, Will Young was still straight on that show.
Yeah.
Was
Because
he
it
Is
was
that
actually?
right? Is it?
I don't think he came out till after.
I think-
Because
That was
he wanted to win, and he knew what the British public were like.
Yeah.
A stutterer, a gay guy. Leona Lewis? Well, that's a black woman, so no chance. Come on, where's Matt Cardle when you need it?
You seem to. Do you have quite a sort of hatred for this sort of diary of a CEO self-help?
Yeah,
type
it's
of shit?
interesting though, because I sort of like, I'm such a contrarian that like, I hate it when it's popular and then it's popular to hate it, and now I'm like, no, mate. It's like my instinct is to now be like, okay, find a positive angle on it, find a funny and not an ironic one. So if I were to write a bit about it now, I was sort of like slagging off that sort of thing on the last tour. If I was to try and do a bit about it now, I would be going, the grain to me would now be that everyone's anti it.
Yeah.
So I would instinctively think, all right, find a funny positive angle, but I can't, so I haven't. He's getting in trouble, isn't he? Because it's all misinformation. Isn't everything this week where he's
Yeah.
platforming all these people who are saying,
Yeah.
if you eat this, you die immediately or whatever, or you live for 100 years.
I think it's
don't
something
know.
like you can cure cancer with the keto diet or something. Which don't clip this. Make that.
Misinformation. The Some Love podcast is spreading misinformation.
Well, wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wind's changed on him, hasn't it? Like I feel like it was cool to hate him, and now everyone just does hate him. So like,
Yeah.
where's the fun?
It was
there?
like cool to hate him in sort of comedy circles or whatever, but it still was the biggest podcast, and now it's just like pretty universal.
It's
Yeah,
tricky.
now it's not satisfying to
No.
anything like that. If you've got a bit saying it's bad, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
And that's why doing old material, like I'm sort of slagging off ice baths or whatever. Really, I see that as a bit about the man Wim Hof. But even then, it's like when I was first doing that bit, no one knew who that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he got an ITV show or whatever, a Channel 4 show. And even then, it was quite hard to get people to know who that was. And so loads of the jokes in that routine explain who he is. And now everyone's like, yeah, I know. I know about this. I've got an ice bath on my balcony. And you go, right, okay, fine.
It's like, remember, like years ago when older comedians would start talking about Facebook, and then they would go, "If you've never heard of Facebook," and
Yeah,
they'd
yeah,
explain
yeah.
it. You're like, everybody
Are we on the
knows fucking
Facebook?
Yeah.
Are we on the Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Are we on the
2015.
Facebook?
But it is kind of hard with that. It's like Stephen Bartlett and Wim Hof are both good examples, I think, of like the kind of like they're in the consciousness, and if you're online, you'll kind of know about them, but maybe the general public wouldn't if you were doing a gig talking about them.
Yeah.
And then by the time they get to the point where everybody knows about them, it's already cool to hate them.
Yeah, and all the jokes have kind of been done because of the way people consume media now. It's like, it's all instant. So like, but that's sort of like the change in culture. We were talking about this last night because I was like, our show last night was up against Sam Fender or something, and
Yeah.
the promoter's cab driver had said, "Bad night for a gig, mate. Sam Fender's playing the
Hydro.
playing the Hydro." And everyone backstage was like, "I couldn't tell you a single Sam Fender song."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but that's true of basically all culture now, which is like all these stadium fillers. You don't have to be in the public consciousness in the same way that you used to be able to fill a stadium, because everyone's just consuming their own little pocket of media. and that's fucking mental. You look at like massive. You get it with comedy loads. It's like the man on the street does not know who Matt Rife is, but when Matt Rife comes to England, he plays arenas. Like, because you don't need to. You just need this little pocket on your phone or whatever. But that's why gigging is so hard to just do, like, if you're doing observational comedy, because you're like, that's why the pandemic was great, because after the pandemic, it's like everyone literally went through the first thing for the first time in ages. Everyone definitely experienced the same thing. But then you go, well, every fucking comedian's doing the same bit.
And when you come back, by the time gigs come back, no one wants to fucking hear it.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, yeah, fuck that. I know.
The way I think about Zoom. It's interesting you say that, though, because obviously you've done a lot of Mock the Weeks in the last few series and stuff like that. And obviously, when that started, like, was the big thing, you know, like, particularly like Frankie and stuff like that. It's like, becomes these household names. And then, like, because you've got these, like, compilations of, like, all your jokes on it. And I would say, like, I always felt like you were, like, the person so well suited to Mock the Week since Frankie, really, in terms of, like, because you get so many great, like, one-liner gags, that type of thing. And
he's just making it all up there as well.
That's why it's more impressive.
Top of the head, that stuff.
That's why it's more impressive.
Dara, hosting's mostly reading. This guy, he's a stag dude.
But I guess it's that thing as well, like with the number of ones you've done. So I went to a Celtic game with Larry once, and it was after he'd done, like, I think he'd done one Mock the Week and he'd done Live at the Paul, and then I was kind of thinking, like, God, if that's just, like, and we were just, like, in normal seats, and I remember thinking, like, that's like 10 years ago, you need a fucking box.
Yeah.
But
Did anyone come up to Larry and go, Mock the Week?
No, I was so home.
There you go.
No. But I have something.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Somebody would recognise you for TikTok or whatever instead, but
you probably built an audience by putting those clips on Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, because I think that's an interesting example, I think, because, like, that was like doing one thing consistently at the right time. Sort of like the last, now that telly's sort of dead, I was lucky not to, I didn't feel like it at the time, but not to be someone who was being booked once on everything, or once or twice on everything, because then you're just like, they're not the same audience. So if you go, 1 million people watch Mock the Week, the same million people watch Mock the Week every week. And so if you're a mainstay on that, then it is 1 million people who go, I know who that is.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like, oh, that 1 million people saw you once, but then a different million saw you on this or whatever, it's like, well, only a very small percentage are really taking in your name or whatever, because it's such a revolving door of. So I got lucky there, and I think that helped me then with the tour. And now, if I was to do a tour now, I think it would be like, it would all have to just be clips.
Yeah.
But I've sort of rinsed all the clips from that show now that I like. You can see when you get to a point when you're posting like a scene we like to see that you thought was shit at the time. Yeah, what about this one? And then it's sort of bombing on Instagram as well, and you're like, yeah, it sucks. That's when you're like, oh God. And that's why you just go get someone else to do your social media. But I haven't done that.
yeah,
I should do that and just be free.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be, because I'd still say I need the password, and I'd go check it every day. Or I'd get another burner account and go see how it's doing from there, from the outside. It's fucking even more pathetic. Looking through the window of my own social media to go, and is it doing well? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's when you need to re-engage with it to clip it up, and then I see how it's done. You're like getting reinvested again in it all, but that is the way that you need to just try and fucking sell tickets now.
It's
It's horrible, isn't it? I fucking hate it. We didn't agree to this shit when we signed up.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough. I mean, there's good things, which is the fact that, there's lots of, you don't have to rely on telly and people can get an audience and do that sort of stuff. But then you're like, yeah, but at what cost? Because you're having to do all of this. When I stopped, I was doing loads of clips when I was on tour last year. And the second the tour stopped, I just didn't post a reel for like 6 months. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like walking down the street with a spring in my step. It was like every day was sunny. It was incredible. And then the moment it was like, oh, fuck, I need to engage my audience again, and I start posting clips. It's like clouds appeared instantly.
Yeah.
Everyone think, no, that must be so hard for you.
I know, yeah. Post videos.
Yeah.
You do something during the day like that.
Yeah. Man, when I could just pay someone else to do it, and I just am too lazy to find who that is.
Yeah.
And people do DM you as well, going, "Can I do this for you?" And you go, "No, I'd like to feel sad."
What was your experience of doing Mock the Week, and did it take you a while to like feel comfortable on that show?
Yeah, I guess so. It was really welcoming, actually. Although the reputation of it obviously is like, it's this bear pit and all that sort of shit. And I think that was long gone by the time I got on there.
Yeah.
And these were just like my sort of mates and peers, like school year above me kind of thing, were on it. So it was just sort of, everyone was like, loads of the comics on it just spoke to me before it, or like phoned me before it to say, oh, this is how it works. And they weren't shitting me up saying, it's a stag do, call everyone a cunt or whatever. It was just like actual advice. So it was really welcoming. Obviously, the first time on it, I think the first episode I did, I thought, God, that went amazingly. Because I got 4 laughs or something like that. And I was like, everything I said. And then you look back and you go, oh, you barely spoke. And you really got away with it. But yeah, definitely got more comfortable. It's when you find yourself, the ones where you know you're comfortable is where you find yourself sort of like leaning back on the chair like this. You're like, Dora. And then like saying, it's like, then you're like, okay, I might be a bit too. And then when you're saying stuff like that and everything's bombing, you're like, okay, head in the game. But yeah, definitely, yeah, it's like anything. Yeah, you definitely just get more used to it and you sort of know, you can predict it a bit more.
Yeah.
Because there's sort of people who would come to see that live. It's like the same sort of people all the time. I'm not slagging them off. I just mean it's like it's a specific audience. And so you would figure out, well, they'll like these things. You still got to do what you like, but it's like, oh, you sort of realise, you write a joke and it maybe be a bit weird and you think, okay, I can rewrite that to suit it getting a laugh in the room.
Yeah.
Were you prioritising the audience in the room?
Well, it's hard not to. Like anything, it's like, you definitely see people come on there and make the mistake of doing that and say things that are not broadcastable because it's playing well in the room. And you'd think, you're not going to be in this edit at all. Mm-hmm. But you're trying to find the balance, I think, of like, I always had this thing with the guy, Dan, who created it. He'd always be like, don't say stuff we can't use. So if there's a runner where it's like got the word fuck in it, we can't use it and stuff like that. If everyone's doing something like that, and he'd get frustrated. And I would say, sometimes bear in mind, I am saying a one-liner or a callback for the room because it makes them think I'm funny.
Yeah.
And if they think I'm funny, everything else will work. Yeah. But don't tell me off immediately. Yeah. Say, we can't use that, don't say that, which he wouldn't do, but you know what I mean? Don't panic in the gallery going like, he said cunt. I was like, yeah, I know you can't use that, but now they're having fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like you need a little opener or something like that.
Yeah. They will laugh more at the kind of weak gag
we're about to
tell in 2 minutes.
Now I've done that, they go, this guy's really funny. And then
when he said cunt 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Maybe he's going to say it again. Exactly.
That's pretty good. That's actually good advice in a way. Is like to do it like pick your times for saying the wee unbroadcastable thing just to keep the room on.
Sometimes you got to just keep momentum up. Yeah.
I
remember I did years ago. I did warm up for Have I Got News for You, and that's easy warm up because you just do like 5 minutes and then you can go home. But I think it was Tim Davey, the former Liberal Democrat leader, was on the panel, and he clearly had been given or had this one great line, right, to say that was going to get a big laugh. And it was the week of the Lib Dem conference. And it had been really, in the news, it had been like really empty at the Lib Dem conference. And when you do it, you like really hype up, you know, Ian Islam, and they go crazy. And then all these acts come and sit down, and Jack D was hosting. And before they start rolling, all the comedians like say a little line that is just to get the audience laughing or whatever. Some gag. Often it's the same one every week, I learn, or whatever, but the host is always different. And they have a little line they say, it just makes everyone go, oh, this is funny. And then they go, right, we're going to roll now. And Tim Davey, like everyone went around and did a line. And then Tim Davey hadn't said anything, but he doesn't have to. And then he went, well, I'm just glad to be somewhere where there's people. And the audience went crazy. And then they went, right, let's start rolling now. And his face was like, that's my bit. That's my only bit. And I've used it and I was like, oh no, that is so devastating. Someone told him, just open with this and you're going to be golden.
That's great.
Fucking hell. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but in the car you were telling us you were doing a corporate recently and there was another politician in attendance.
Matt Hancock was in the front row.
No way.
And I went on and they hadn't told me he was going to be there. He's like maybe a patron of like this thing. And
he's one of our patrons as well.
Yeah. By the way, I only do corporates for gun companies and for evil pharmaceutical companies. It was for digital marketing, and I think he'll go anywhere for a free dinner. Well, now he's been in the jungle. I think he'll eat fucking anything. And it was all these big round tables or whatever, and I walked on, and I'd written all these jokes about all the companies that were there, and it was on the script, like on an autocue to do a lectern, and the second I walked on, I was like, good evening and welcome, Matt Hancock! That's Matt Hancock! But no one knew he was going to be there, so then I started doing all these jokes about Matt Hancock, and everyone was just like, why are you... like I brought it up to then do my Matt Hancock stuff, like years later, and he'd shaved his head. So everyone was like looking at where I was pointing, being like, no, it's not. And so I was kind of bombing. It was he kind of won because I was like doing all these slams, but they weren't working. And he was sort of looking back at me like, yeah, what now? And I was like, yeah, fuck, I got nothing.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was awkward. And then luckily there was a big sort of break, and then it had to come back on. And so I sort of said, like, I'm sure now you've all mingled and you've seen Matt Hancock is here, he's there. And then I did a few more. And they worked.
Still a cunt.
And he's still a cunt. Yeah, they kind of worked. But it's a bit weird. And when the person who organised it, when I came off, said, yeah, I specifically made the decision not to tell you Matt Hancock was going to be here because I thought you'd write loads of jokes. Yeah. Well, I would have done.
Do you like doing corporates? A lot of comedians hate it, but I feel like
I don't mind. Yeah, it's kind of it's one of those things. Again, it sort of suits my style a little bit. I mean, sometimes I'm up there thinking this really doesn't suit my style, but sometimes it can be. Phil Wang told me put the jokes on the autocue and do it at the lectern like a proper award show in like a Golden Globesy type thing, because that's kind of what they're expecting. What you do is, for a corporate, for the listeners, is you're like often hosting an awards do, and it's like the finance awards of the year or something. I've done the Young Pension Awards. Imagine that. Imagine the Young Pension.
I don't even know
Awards.
what that means.
No, exactly, and nor did I. And they showed in my material. But you go on and you often have to do like 10 minutes of stand up, and then you're like hosting the awards and just like handing out the awards and stuff. And that's all on autocue anyway. But normally you like go on holding a mic and you do stand up. And it's like, you're like a warm-up guy for yourself. And that's what I always used to do. But I would write all this stuff in the day about all these companies, about the industry, and I'd get up there and the first joke wouldn't work, and I'd just forget it all and then just go back to fucking Wim Hof. And you go, these guys definitely don't know about that. And so when, Phil said, I just put it on the thing. I just write it the day before and then put it on the thing. And once I did that, I was like, oh, God, this is so much easier. Yeah. So now I've done that, I quite like them. Because it's just like hosting is mostly reading. I mean, it literally is just reading. It's just reading jokes I've already written. So they're all right. And obviously, even if you're dying, you're just thinking, you idiots. Yeah. You're paying me this much for this. Idiots.
Well, because in a way, a lot of times it's just an unwinnable battle, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
well, that's it as well. Is your ceiling for how well it can go is quite low. So if you compare it to a gig, you are dying on your ass.
Yeah.
But when you compare it to other corporates, sometimes you're like, this is great. Yeah. This is really fun. So as long as you adjust your barometer, I think you're all right.
And it's like, because a lot of times they get like presenters and stuff in to do these ones as well, and you'd love to just see how they do at them. Yeah. Although they've probably usually got some kind of pre-written patter that they do, and it's like,
but that's the thing though as well, is because you never get to see another comedian do a corporate. You've got no idea how well you should be doing. There's times when I'd say the worst gig of my life at corporates come off and they've been like, brilliant, best one we've ever had. And I go, well, get a juggler then, because they don't want comedians. That was awful. That was the worst 10 minutes of my life. And they go, oh, everyone, that's the best anyone's. And you go, they're fucking idiots. And I guess it's because you don't know what they're basically, they want you to run on time, don't swear that much, and just be professional and be nice to everyone. And if you do that, they don't care how it goes. They just want it to not overrun because they'll get charged extra from the venue. That's it. Yeah. So just like, and there's a few comedy promoters like that as well that are just like, you come off having died and they're like, bang on, well done. Bang on 20, brilliant. You think, okay.
Do you have the dinner with them and all that at the start?
I always say I can't do that.
Because I didn't know you could say you can't.
Yeah.
I'm just eating fucking dinners with fishermen, and I'm like, I don't. Why
the fishing awards rears its ugly head once again.
Yeah, that's come up a lot on this podcast.
You know, the fishing awards.
The fishing awards, yeah.
It's the kind of corporates you get in Scotland.
What was the trophy like? What did the trophy look like? Big fish?
It was
different sized fishes. The awards are. Yeah. Surely they're posing.
There was loads of different awards. It was like the
golden rods.
Yeah. It was like the over 10 meter, under 10 meter,
wow.
Stuff like that.
Fuck, I love this.
It was dog shit, man. There was a woman went on, like a vicar went on to say grace beforehand, and then she said about how a fisherman just died recently, and everyone loved the person, this fisherman. And then she's like, "Here's Stephen Buchanan."
And now for some jokes. I did one recently for Renault, the car company.
Nice.
I just think they've already paid, so this isn't an issue. Okay. They can't get it back, can they? They can't phone their bank and say reverse transaction. And they said to me, you do a briefing call before these corporates often, and they sort of just tell you about the event so you can write some jokes about it. And often they say, can you not say cunt and one fuck or whatever? And this one, so I was asking these questions, is it black tie and all this? And this was just like an after dinner speech for this Renault conference. And they said, can you not mention cars? And I was like, sorry, it's for Renault. I'm going to need to write they were like, do some bespoke material, but can you not mention? I was like, I don't know how. What? Tires? What do you want me to do? And they're like, no. And I said, I won't slag off Renault. And they said, no, don't talk about our rivals. Don't talk about Renault. Don't talk about cars.
Fucking hell.
By the way,
The film?
on stage, they went, on stage, either side of you will be 2 cars. I was like, how do you expect me to not mention? The audience are going to think I'm insane. I walk up and go, so a bit about me. My girlfriend's crazy. But I did do that. I opened by saying, it's fucking crap. This is crap comedy, by the way. But I opened by saying that. I opened by saying, pretty bold of you to host a Renault conference in Vauxhall, okay, which is an area of London. And, they like that. And then immediately I was like, so anyway, and just went into my normal stuff. They're looking at me like I was absolutely fucking mental. Yeah. And then after 10 minutes, I had to go, just so you know, I'm not that shit at this. I'm not allowed to mention cars. And they were all looking at me like it was a joke. And I was like, no, seriously, you have a briefing. I just explained exactly as I did to you. And then I just started going, look, so just bear that in mind, is that I want to be talking, God, I've got good stuff about these. I want to be talking about these. Anyway, and I would go back into my normal stuff. And then I just started threatening them because I was in between the main course and dessert. And I said, look, I have to fill 20 minutes. If you don't laugh, I'll do longer. But I just kept saying, because they hated it. I said, the sooner you laugh, the sooner I'll leave. If you don't laugh, I will carry on for 30 minutes, possibly longer, not talking about cars. And then I said, they specifically have told me not to talk about Renault. And I ended that by saying, I've already been booked for next year, so see you there. Renaults are for cunts. Goodbye. And I did. It's the only one I've ever come off thinking, I'm not getting paid here.
Really?
I genuinely thought there's a good chance. But Renaults are for cunts was my biggest laugh. So I thought it's the only thing that might help. And then they came over and they were like, no, we thought it was funny. That's great. And I did still think I was like, just wait and see how long it takes. Because they'll be like, actually, we did contractually say, don't say Renaults are for cunts. So I thought, fuck, that was a concern. But,
But you got paid.
I got the Renault money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Spent it on a Ford.
I remember, you used to do a lot of poetry stuff,
Yeah.
Rhys, in your shows. Do you do much of that these days? Or
Nah.
how do you look back at those shows?
Um,
Was that kind of would you say that was you kind of try to do stuff kind of for the Edinburgh expectations?
I guess, yeah. Yeah, that would have played into it. You want a set piece. I did really like that. I did really like that stuff. I liked watching that stuff. And I really liked writing that stuff. And actually performing it. That was the main thing, actually. Performing it felt really cool.
No.
And it doesn't feel cool to me anymore. It felt like a light change and then doing a thing. It was like, God, it makes me feel cool to do this. And I think, actually, it's like, no, zoom out and watch from above. It's lame. You're a loser. I think I was just super into Bo Burnham, is what it was.
Yeah,
and so I was just like...
I was going to say, is there an influencer?
Yeah, I was just like, I'll try and do that. And then, you get more into John Mulaney and you think, I'll do stand-up. But I think I think a bit of it was that. But yeah, definitely it was like... But Edinburgh's changed as well, right? So that back then, set pieces like that in an Edinburgh show was the kind of done thing. And now I'd say, it would feel a bit played out now. Like it was to be obvious that's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Whereas then, maybe it was, and I was just young. Then it just felt like, no, this is what you do. Yeah. Now Edinburgh feels more like, I don't know, it feels like it's gone back to, no, just do a funny show.
Yeah, it kind of comes in waves, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So I think now it would be like, it would seem cynical. I think I wasn't trying to set myself apart or anything. It was just like, I really like watching when someone like Bo Burnham does this. I think I'm not that bad at writing these. I like performing them. I'm going to put some in. And then that was sort of it, really. But then it just but also, fills some time, didn't it?
Yeah.
3 minutes, those poems. And I used to do much more sketchbooky shows where it'd be stuff would be broken up and it wasn't about momentum and a through line and stuff like that in the same way. Yeah. And now I don't.
Well, because I remember seeing your shows and think we'd go and see it and it was some of my favourite shows there, but it was I always felt almost cause it wasn't as maybe awards baity or whatever as right. Other ones that it's maybe did you never get nominated? But
no.
But it was but then you end up in fucking Mock the Week and all that kind of stuff. So in a way, that's what else do you want?
Yeah. I always feel like you were going for the funny first, the jokes. And
I never had any of those any of that. The cliche Edinburgh thing, which I don't know how much I've actually seen that, but the stereotype being the whole at 40 minutes you say your dad's dead or whatever.
Yeah.
my dad sadly continues to live. So I could have had a career. God damn it. But all of that stuff, or any sort of sad thing, is like, I guess now it's all personal, isn't it? It's all about like anxiety, and it's all what you've been diagnosed with. It's the current trend. But generally, I think when I watch people do those shows, they're not trying to make anyone sad. They're just how they have funny stuff about ADHD.
Yeah.
Or
why
whatever.
would you not talk about it if it's a big part of your life?
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how many examples I can think of where I've actually seen someone do the inverted commas dead dad show and it not be hilarious. Every time I've seen someone do it, it's like they had fucking funny stuff about their dad's funeral. Yeah. So that's your way in.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need to link in by saying, my dad's dead, by the way. And when I was at his funeral, you can't just be like, so my dad's funeral last week. It's too much. But I was always definitely funny first, because also just like, I can't hack silence. So if I can't have silence as people like listen to me say a sad thing, because I'm like, there's no feedback. You know what I mean? It's like comedy's the best thing because there's instant feedback and you know if it's good or bad. And whenever you're doing a bit that's like trying to elicit any other kind of reaction, even if the reaction is silence or like a gut, you're just like, that's not the same. And so I'm constantly like, okay, fine. This, please laugh at this. And that's why it was those. And I guess the poems was the only thing where I felt like at the time but they were all jokes still, the poems. It was still like full of jokes, but it is the only time where you feel like, but this is still impressive, so you can do that. But now I just feel like, just fucking be funny.
It'd be harder as well, like on tour, especially if you're playing bigger rooms and stuff. Like, it's just like, I guess there's an expectation that you would see something a bit different at the Edinburgh Fringe, but when you're in like...
There is that, yeah, that you as you get a more mainstream audience, you know, you go and do something like Mock the Week and then you get a more mainstream audience, it's like, just do stand-up. And just make that really, because like, all the effects of doing those poems can be done with good stand-up comedy, with it being impressive and it feeling like something different. You can do that with stand-up. I'm not saying I have done that with stand-up. I have seen it done. I've been impressed in the same way I would be watching Bo Burnham from normal stand-up comedy. But it's just really hard.
Yeah.
And so you're just like not good enough at that point, and possibly still. So it's like, okay, fine. It's like, you know, but there is a feeling as well sometimes with those things where if they don't like it, you are stuck for 3 minutes.
I was going to say, you ever like struggling at a gig and you're like, God, I've got to do a fucking poem in a minute.
Yeah, well, I would never, that's the thing, I never did it at a gig. It was only solo stuff. So you think there's some buy-in already. And it's only really Edinburgh, and then like, I wouldn't tour then, so it was only Soho Theatre, and so that's all sort of pretentious wankers in the audience who love it. So, yeah, it was like at a gig, I would always be like, and I remember around that time there was loads of tryouts for like telly things, like I think maybe Russell Howard's Good News and stuff like that. You'd go do tryouts, and I would be told by the producers, like, do the poems in the tryouts. But the tryouts would be like 10 of your mates on a comedy bill doing 5 minutes. And you'd be like, do you want me to get beaten up? I'm not doing that. But it was like, no, they want set pieces, because like Doc Brown had gone viral with the T-rap.
Oh, yeah.
And, so and like viral was kind of new for telly. They were like, they're looking for stuff that might go viral. So if you do one of these poems, they'll be like, yeah. And still, I was like, that's being too short-termist and being too in the moment of like, but I've got to play this gig now to these people, and not thinking, yeah, fuck these people, because you'll get on the show. It was just like, I just want this to go well, and then it does, and then you don't get on the show.
Yeah.
Because everyone's doing well, doing stand-up, and you need to set yourself apart, but I just was too much of a pussy to actually do these things I had specifically written for this show.
Well, speaking of Edinburgh, there was a time, so you won't remember this, but I met you the first, I think maybe your first Edinburgh show. You probably remember. I was an audience member. And I came up to you after, I was like, I love the show, blah, blah, blah. And
I said, get the fuck out of my face. How dare you speak to me?
Well, in as many words.
Did I really?
So you'd started doing like putting stuff on YouTube and doing Twitter stuff and that, and I was like, oh, I've made my own YouTube channel now.
Just before you did stand-up?
Yes, this is before I done stand-up.
Wow, I'm not going to respect a non-comedian. For any listeners, I'm not going to respect a non-comedian. So unless you're a comedian, don't come up to me.
But you were being nice about it at first. You were like, you were like, oh, cool, what's your channel called? And I said Banterville, and you went, oh, how original. And then,
to be fair, I stand by it. Yeah. I didn't need to be rude.
And those are the words that I needed, because I was like, yeah, you're right.
How original is too. That's too cunty. But if I'd just taken the piss out of you for like 5 minutes for calling it Banterville, I'd be fine with it. How original is like, God, as if I was doing anything original. I just told you I was ripping off Bo Burnham that year, and I'm there going, "Oh, you're unoriginal, but banter." Also, I've never heard of Banterville before. That is original.
No, at the time I was like, we knew it was shite, but we were like, this is what the people would want. But like the name Banterville, as if it was of the time.
Really, the words I used were how original.
Yeah,
We
I love
have
that
posted that a
story.
lot.
we have
How
it's
original.
made me laugh a lot.
How original. Because I was like, I think I was trying to, I'm trying to remember this and be generous to myself and remember this in a sort of Larry David way. Being like, he'd be like, I'm not going to watch a channel. Yeah, good luck. But really, how original is like just snooty. And it's just everything I sort of hate about myself.
It was what I needed to hear at the time. So
What's the channel called now?
I don't have one anymore.
Right.
I gave up.
Really crushed the
I gave
dream.
up.
Did you change the name from Banterville?
Yeah, we changed it to the Human Carpet Collective.
And that is
Very
original.
original.
But it's to your detriment. Banterville would have done a lot better.
Yeah,
and you shouldn't listen to someone. God, and you wanted to hit the mainstream, so you listened to the advice of a man barely selling a 40-seater. Very clever.
Was it the Three Sisters? So it was a pretty big.
Oh my God, this is fucking, that's year. Okay, right,
Yeah.
that's years and years ago. God, yeah,
Yeah.
I really was a fucking wanker then. Yeah, did I have big hair? I had like long hair. Did I still have long hair then? Maybe I didn't actually.
I don't know.
When I started,
I was there for the jokes, not the hair.
That was
You're the only one.
kind of era of comedy, wasn't it? The kind of E4 hair.
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah,
Ramsey.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, how original. And I'm fucking dying on my ass every day at the Three Sisters.
No, you
I'm
smashed
saying
it. That was the only reason why I
My
thought
God.
I'd speak to you afterwards. If you died, I would have been like,
Yeah. We're not coming near that guy. Yeah. Well, that was me. That was cynical. That was the 45-minute work in progress to try and cheat a nomination the next year, which, as pointed out, did not arrive. So, we all, karma really played out.
yeah.
I'm slagging you off for being unoriginal in all my reviews that year.
Yeah, you should have called this something like Banterville or something.
Yeah.
Or light-hearted, you know.
Sorry, I've always wanted
I
to bring that
apologise.
up.
Well, actually, no, I don't.
No,
It
you
is
were-
Banterville, it was, and I'd have been pretty anti-banter.
Yeah.
The word banter at that time.
And I think, like, at the time you would have seen banter as like benign, and then it was that much later, we'd have gone, aye, that is actually pretty.
I think it was
Nice.
around, I would have been rallying against, like, Lad Bible
Yeah.
around that time. And that was what I would have associated with the word banter.
Yeah. That is.
It would be
exactly-
like very laddie, and I would have been like, ugh.
Yeah.
But that's also me being like, I'm arty and I'm different and complicated, and I'm not. And actually, bloody love banter. It's great.
Imagine a whole Ville where it was just banter.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a league of their own forever.
Banterville is just like you're on a stag do.
That's what they should have called a league of their own. Banterville. When they do like a league of their own road trips, it should just be like, where are we off to? We're off to Banterville. Oh my God. What other harrowing things have I said to you people in the past that I don't remember?
That was the
Anything
only
else?
thing- That was it.
We only met last night. You got a clean sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you were at a gig. We done Comedy Store together, and you were very nice to me. But it was one of those nights where I was doing a trial 10 at the time, and I'd picked the wrong stuff. I was getting that way when you're bored of your old stuff, and you've got new stuff you're more excited about, but it wasn't good enough
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah,
And I'd done
classic.
that, and Don was in, and fucking takes me back, and it's like everything he was saying to me is just like. He actually said, you must have better stuff than that. I was like, no, I do. I just chose to do that stuff. But I was like mortified because I remember that night, I think like Kerry Godleyman was on and a couple of people, and I just remember feeling like such a fucking
Fraud.
fraud.
I would have been trying out as well.
Aye.
I would have
like
been
20
doing
or something.
I've got no idea, but I don't play the Comedy Store. So
Oh,
I
really?
never really, I've only ever done one weekend there, and I think they booked me by mistake. They were trying to get the footballer. Because I did it for a while, and then I was like, I can't keep coming back here. This is so demoralising.
Yeah.
But I would have definitely been trying out then as well, 100%,
Oh,
because
really?
I wasn't like in. I don't know if
Yeah.
I might have been doing 10 as well. I don't know, but it's he always was like,
Yeah.
He would always say, actually, you have good material and you are ruining it by the way you deliver it. He was like,
Really?
He said once to me, "You're turning comedy gold into comedy bronze."
Still pretty good.
And I was like, "Have you seen the rest of the lineup? You think there's bronze out there? There's a lot of iron out there, and there's some wood. But I'd take bronze if I were you, mate." And now they've updated their lineup somewhat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty copper, that fucking.
Do you
now play the Comedy Store?
I've now got my first weekend in like a year.
This was ages ago, presumably.
Probably a month or so ago, and they booked me like.
No, when we did the trial.
Oh, when we did it?
That was
fucking probably like pre-pandemic.
crazy. It's crazy how long that takes, isn't it?
Yeah.
God.
You'll be a washed up old hack by the time you play.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be great, man. Nah.
Well, you have to be a bald man in a suit to play the Comedy Store. So they wait till you're showing signs of male pattern baldness, I think. And then they allow you to come in.
I'm going to resist getting the wee hymns or whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah. Don't get a transplant or you'll never play the store.
You because you're talking about like the wankers that come see the Soho Theatre, the Fringe types, but
Yeah. I was trying. I'm being self-deprecating. No. To clarify.
I'm trying to burn your whole audience.
Yeah, exactly. I meant they. It was just a gag. It was a gag. It wasn't real. How original.
But obviously there is they caught me the kind of audience you would play like in London. We are doing like Bill Murray or something, like doing Work in Progress or at the Fringe versus like maybe a tour audience or a kind of older crowd or whatever. Like, because I remember actually we'd seen your Fringe show one year, and I think you were doing like Glasgow Stand or something, and it was some of the same stuff. But I remember feeling like it was just kind of going over people's heads a wee bit.
Right.
Just because it was a weekend crowd, it was just whatever.
Yeah.
You were opening and all that stuff. But like we were like really laughing, but it's like you're going, oh, it's just like there's that thing of like, because I feel like that's what you sometimes do as well. Like, well, you'll keep like quite kind of like original, like or like kind of like stuff about the internet, like references you'll keep in, and maybe know everybody gets it.
Fuck them.
And you're like, fuck it. Whereas I think sometimes
Whereas
like,
You guys seen this Facebook thing?
Are we on the Facebook?
You need to explain Facebook to people, man, or they won't get it.
but yeah, like, would you, like, when you were doing like club gigs or things like that, would you just go, well, I'm just going to stick to my stuff, and if they don't get this reference to fucking Wim Hof or Zoe or
No,
whatever,
I didn't have another gear. I think. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I just didn't know how to. I just had my stuff, and I was so nervous all the time. It was like, just do your stuff, and I wouldn't have the gear and the confidence to come out of it or do anything about it or reword it in the moment, and so it would always be the same. And I remember there was a period at that time when I was just like, if they weren't getting it, and also I would deliver it so quickly and move on so quickly that it was like, kind of in those environments when they do, if I think they need to think about it or work out what I'm talking about, I would never give them time. But what I would do is I would just sort of say the punchline really quick and then go, okay, at the end of it, and you kind of get the laugh as if like it's such a cheat, as if they're going, oh, that was it. And they sort of move on. And but no, it's just I didn't have another gear, and now I would just be like, oh, I would just work out. I think they're not getting this. It's not conviction. I have no conviction. It's not. I think that's such a compliment to people, and I wish I had more conviction about stuff.
Yeah.
And when you see acts who are a bit different, who don't compromise for an audience who don't like it, I'm so impressed by it because I am so desperate for them to like me that I would be like, okay. And sometimes it was like, to that point, I've sometimes felt like I didn't ever fit in either camp. Like I wasn't necessarily smashing like a club environment because I was being a bit fucking cerebral and pretentious myself or whatever, or trying to be a bit weird, and different. But then I wasn't weird enough for the weird crowd.
Yeah.
I was like way too mainstream and slick for the weird crowd. So it was like, oh, you're the worst of both worlds. And I would find that in Edinburgh a bit. It's like, you kind of do have to commit here because you're like, what is the brand if you're not going, oh, I'm one of these weird, really different acts, or no, mainstream comedy done well. And it was not until I started getting regularly on Mock the Week and I thought, well, this is a mainstream show. It was like, right, try and be a mainstream stand-up comedian who... But even then, it's like, I can't do it to the extent that all the biggest names in British comedy do it. All the arena fillers of mainstream. I'm not that good at performing relative to those guys. I don't have that in me. And so it's like, okay, so you're still not good enough for that. And then you start becoming like, oh, I don't want a cult following.
Yeah.
Oh, I want millions. And then you go, all right, I guess I just do these corporates then instead. Get Renault on the phone.
I don't even know if it's not been good enough for anything, but I think there's certain types of people that personalities lend themselves more to just being, the everyman or whatever.
Yeah, I
versus-
have too much doubt in my head, I think, and maybe people do have that, but I just am constantly second guessing everything.
Yeah.
And so, or I was anyway, and now I think I think there's that whole thing, isn't there, of like there's the stereotype which maybe you don't agree with. And I don't know that I fully do, but there's like comedians are like writers and there's performers, and it's you all basically level it out, so it's basically even. But whatever you are first is kind of. And there's that, I think it was Gary Delaney, wasn't it? Who's like a writer's never filled an arena kind of thing. And I've always seen myself as a writer more than who just figured out how to perform
Yeah.
than anything else. Because I prefer writing and I just like it's easier and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess it's that. It's like, mainstream, but the ceiling on trying to be a mainstream comedian who's a writer is lower.
Yeah.
So how successful
I'd
you
go
can
along
be.
with that in broad strokes, I think.
Yeah. Did you ever like at any point think I'll just try and write for other people or just be the writer? Or have you always wanted to be on stage as well?
Yeah, I guess so. I've done like writing for other people, but and I do like it's really fun. It's like
it's not fulfilling though. Like
Well,
as fulfilling as
it depends on the thing. Sometimes it really is,
yeah.
and sometimes it really isn't. Sometimes you're banging your head against the wall. There's been writers' rooms where you're like, yeah, okay, just quality control can go out the window. Then who cares? And then you just think, well, now I'm just sort of like throwing shit, anything out because everyone's just like, yeah, that'll work. Whenever there's a bit of really quick deadline or something, sometimes people are just like very panicked and you'll try and go, let's improve this one, and then we don't have time. That's good enough, kind of thing. And that's where it's not very satisfying. I completely understand that, and I've been on the other side of that with like radio stuff, where you're like, well, we're doing a topical thing and we're doing it tomorrow, so
Yeah.
but that isn't very fulfilling. Then sometimes it's really, I guess long term, I wouldn't be like, I think comedians have this thing in their head where it's like, if you don't do stand-up forever, then you failed. You go, no, I think it's the other way around. I think you're supposed to become a movie star. Adam Sandler is not thinking, I've got to do some gigs or I failed as a comedian. He's like, no, I'm the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
So I think but I think comics do have that of like, he doesn't even do it anymore kind of thing. Because he now writes television and films. And you go, yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Or but it's a nice life. This year I've been doing some writing things like where it meant I've gigged less. And it's an easy life. You're just not feeling nervous ever.
Yeah.
Because those days where you're just writing and then it's just like you sort of stop at 6 and then you have an actual life like a normal human. You go, oh, right, this is quite good.
Yeah.
Do you not just think all the reasons you got into it when you're in your early 20s or whatever, like the opposite now where you're like,
yeah, right.
now I would like to do stuff in the day and not do stuff.
Yeah. I want to get up late and I want to go on the road. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I want to work constantly and I want to be thinking of things and just like creating stuff.
Yeah.
You need to be making stuff or you go insane, right? It's constantly moving forward creatively. But then if you don't do stand up for a while, you go insane as well. So then you go, right, I need to go on stage and try shit. And every time there's a bit of a rut, it's like, just do new material.
Yeah.
You just have to get some new material. If you're ever disillusioned with this,
Yeah.
that's the only good feeling
Yeah.
is new material working.
Definitely. Yeah.
And when you're doing writing projects, it does get this. It's like stand up where it's like, it bogs you down just as much because you get into Tweaksville.
Just the opposite.
Much
of
less
banter.
funny to Banterville, yeah.
Original.
Yeah, exactly. And you, ironically, could do with tweaking that. But when you're in that, you're just like, oh, fuck it. And it just feels endless. And you do need to go do a gig. So I guess it's probably just like do all of it at the same time. But it's all ego, isn't it? All of it's all ego. It's like you do writing and you go, this isn't enough credit. I'm not getting enough credit for this. And then you go, right, well, I'll do stand-up. And you go, the credit starts off being people have laughed at you. And then you go, more people should hear about this. I'm making everyone laugh. Everyone in the world should know about this. And you go like, it's not how you consciously feel, but deep down, when you look at it, you go like, oh, I'm pathetic that I need, this isn't enough.
Yeah.
I need more and more people to find out about this. What a life.
Speaking of which, like, because I feel like the radio series you've done, I really enjoyed them. And,
Thank you.
I think it's like, would you feel that that's one of those things where you'd like, I guess where it's on, like, was it Radio 4?
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess it'll go out to a certain demographic, whatever, but like, you put a lot of work into it and then like, would you want to, is that one of those things you feel like more people should have known about this or?
Well, yeah, it's not like bitter about it. It's like anything you work hard on, you go like, you want as many people as possible to know about it. And it's always it always feels a bit weird when you do something and put loads of work in and it feels like it sort of just evaporates. But that doesn't feel like that. Radio 4's a weird one because it actually, so many people listen to it, but you never get any of this information.
Yeah.
But then they like release their figures for it's like in general at 6 o'clock there's like 3 million people listening or something. Wow. They go, but they're also in the car and they're cooking and they're not really listening.
Yeah.
But that one is like increasing. I think you just have to be like it. You do have to be like it is about the work, but you are also a human being, right? So you go, yeah, it'd be nice if everyone loved the work.
Yeah.
Or, you know, but it's not a waste of time just to make something good that you think is good and have a body of work you think is good, I guess. But it is like, I want to be able to say, no, it's just about making things that you like. But then you go, well, then why put it out at all?
Yeah.
Then I might as well just make it and never show it to anyone. If I didn't have any ego, if none of us had any ego, we'd never put anything out. We wouldn't go on stage. We'd just think of the joke and then shut up and never tell anyone.
Nice creative things.
Yeah, but we all like to pontificate, I think, and go, oh, well, you know, I'm giving the gift of laughter. I provide a certain... Go, no, you're not. It's for you.
Yeah.
You want them to laugh so you feel good. It happens that they feel good, but it's not... None of us are going... We're not the fucking fourth emergency service. It's all because we want people to like us. So yeah, it's like something like research is like, I loved making it. It's really hard to make, but I love making it, and that is really creatively fulfilling because we have a complete control, and we hand it in so late that they couldn't give you notes anyway. It's like on in 10 minutes, and we're like, here's the finished one, and they're like, fuck's sake, all right, I guess we have to. And so that was great because it does do that thing, and it kind of teaches you, like, because you don't get any feedback really from Radio 4. What you do get, actually, Radio 4 listeners, they won't tweet you and they won't DM you on Instagram, but they fuck me or they use that contact form on your website. Oh my God. So they go on that contact form and go, Radio 4, 6:30 p.m, and then the date, and then they go, I was just listening to and either they'll be incredibly offended by something you said, or they'll go, absolute breath of fresh air, young man. It's quite sweet.
I only get like those standard bot Wix, you know, like
SEO,
fucking optimization.
Yeah.
That's all I get from my contact one.
You could be a more famous paedophile if you tried harder.
Dan, would you like to host the Fisherman's Awards?
Yeah, fuck. Have you ever done any work through a contact form on your website? Has any work ever come of it?
I get offers for corporates and stuff sometimes through my website email.
It always feels rogue though, doesn't it? When you're never expecting that email.
Never really believe it. Yeah, never trust it.
Yeah, I don't trust it.
Yeah, it's weird.
I get asked for advice sometimes through that, and I just say, "Be more original, you fucking weasel."
Oh, do you know one thing I thought we could bring up was because you see your other podcast, the early work one, and you would get people to bring on. Was it like just stuff they'd written or whatever?
Yeah, like teenage poems and shit like that, and like lyrics or whatever, or teenage creative writing. Yeah,
I had a weird. I was trying to find it, but I had a weird one I found that I wrote maybe when I was about 12 or 13 or something. And all I remember about it was this guy. I'm just going to tell you my shit story now. This guy, he was like flipping through the channels, and then he sees his brother on channel, and he flips to the next one, and the next one, and his brother's on every channel, and it turns out he's dead. His brother's famous.
Important caveat.
Wait, there's too many twists to keep up with here. Fucking hell, Shyamalan. Slow down.
But then the thing, it was like he lives in a shitty flat or whatever, and he's got a door that opens the wrong way. So when you open the door, it hits out. So it hits people in the face when anyone goes to the door to him. And then he goes to the shop and he gets slagged off by the wee kids or whatever, and he goes back and then he sees that. But anyway, when he learns that his brother dies, he inherits all his fortune and stuff like that from being famous at whatever vague thing it was. And then he just goes out partying all the time, fucking getting papped, you know, taking drugs, whatever. Reputation's in the toilet of this family. He's disgracing his brother's legacy. And then it's like it ends with him being basically like, that's for me, right, we'll get to the end. And he's in this big mansion and shit now, but he's still on his own because everyone's disowned him. And he's sitting watching the telly, and he's not in the shitty house with the door that swings open the other way anymore and all this stuff, but he's still on his own.
That's Citizen's Kane you've run.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Which
it's
pretty good.
Very close to Citizen Kane.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I remember reading it back and I'm like, fucking hell, that's like bleak for like...
What do you think you were getting at?
I was like, it doesn't matter about your material circumstances if you're still just on your own and you've got no one there.
Yeah, right, okay.
And I
think we've all got a 2-word phrase we'd like to say right now.
Citizen Kane.
Yeah. 5 stars. But I mean, for 13, that's not bad. People take a long time to realise that.
I thought you were going to have killed your brother with a door. That's where we're going. I thought it was Chekhov's door.
Chekhov's door.
That would have been a more Shyamalan twist. That'd be good.
So weird. Were you told to write? Did you do that of your own accord?
I'm pretty sure we must have had some
Or was
writing
it like a school
exercise.
task?
Yeah, it must have been a task. I don't think it'd have.
Watch Citizen Kane. Write your own version.
I didn't even say it, which is nothing. Anyway, right, I think that about covers it this week.
What else do you want to know?
The big finale.
Well, you have got your special out, Rhys, that you just released through your website.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a mistake. That was an experiment.
Yeah.
It was interesting. When I said I'm going to sell it on my website, every fucking comic messaged me saying, let me know how many you sell to so I know if I can do this. And I was like, well, it depends what audience you've got. There are people who already have huge online audiences who already pay for stuff. And I was like, you'll sell way more than me. I've got no precedent of this. But my advice would be, you should put it on YouTube. But, it isn't. So you do have to buy it.
And
it's
did
£5.
buy it.
It's called Spilt Milk. And it's the show I toured last year.
Great show.
Recommend.
It's
Sure,
all right.
yeah.
Very
It's
highly
fun.
recommended. And check out Rhys online if you haven't already. Check out all his compilations from Mock the Week
Your
and all the
tweets,
rest
go
of it.
back and look at all those old
Look at those old
Yeah.
tweets, see what you think. I would
them
say
out.
you'd be like, they were all right. Actually, no, as a comedian, I don't think we should be pushing, look back through all my old tweets. I certainly don't do that, ideally.
But, thanks a lot for joining us, Rhys.
Yeah.
A pleasure. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
cheers, mate.
As ever, guys, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can follow us at SumLaughPod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And send any questions you've got to our email address, which is sumlaughpod@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks,
Cheers,
Rhys.
Cheers, Rhys.
Lovely
No one
stuff.
ever.
Love that ending, yeah.